Let's talk about the top 10 struggles people face in relationships. Hey guys, it's John sitting here in my living room on a beautiful gray day outside. I like all days. I think all days are beautiful because they're all part of our experience here on Earth. And without our gray days, we wouldn't have our bright green days. And I'm sitting here just drinking a fabulous glass of water, enjoying this process that I'm going through right now. Let's talk about the top 10 struggles people have with relationships. But let's talk about relationships in general first, right? In the physical world, we're here to process our experience of love and fear. We're here to break free of our fears and anxieties and our stresses. And relationships are the number one example of love in our world. And sometimes we have relationships with money, or sometimes we have relationships with food, but I'm talking specifically about relationships with people. We have partners in life, and the struggles we tend to have with those partners come down to these 10 basic things. And let's talk about what the root origins of these 10 things are, and let's talk about how we overcome them. The number one issue that most relationships have is communication issues. They're afraid to speak their truth, to let people know how they feel. They are mitigating fear rather than expressing themselves authentically. And the mitigating fear hides themselves, which creates a miscommunication, which then means the other person's only going to be dealing with the mask the other person's wearing. And so they're not even really in a relationship with each other anymore. They're in a relationship with the masks that they're wearing. And if you really want a truly loving relationship, communication is always going to be the number one thing. Because, as Nietzsche said, if you want a successful relationship, you have to foster the friendship. Now, there's definitely a truth in that statement. Well, my ex-wife and I, she never treated me as an equal with her friends. Her friends were always more important. And everything was about me conforming to her friends. And, they were very nice people, but I never had a chance to conform with her friends because I was always treated as lesser than her friends. And so I was seen by her friends as lesser because of the fact that she would not treat me in that way. And I blame that on myself because I was the one who allowed myself, as a highly empathic person, we tend to want to serve. And in the serving, we tend to get ourselves into relationship with narcissistic people who only think of themselves and their own experiences and expect everyone to bend to them. And so I wasn't being completely honest and open with who I am and what I believed. And because of that, that relationship was doomed to fail because we weren't in a relationship with each other. We were in a relationship with masks and servitude to those masks. I one time had a woman tell me she was going to end the relationship with her mother. And I said to her, why? Tell me what's going on. She says, well, every time we get together, we butt heads and fight. And I said, wow, that's a terrible thing. I said, you want to fix that? She says, sure. I said, here's what you do. The next time you get together with your mother, and you start butting heads, I want you to exhale. And I want you to say these words to your mother. Mom, no matter what you do or say, I'll always love you. And she says, I can't say that. I said, why not? She says, I don't feel that. I said, well, give yourself the ability to do it and say it, but not think it until she gives you a reason. She said, okay. Next time I saw her, she ran up to me and she gave me a giant bear hug. She says, John, I have the greatest relationship with my mother now because of you. I go, what happened? She says, we got together and we started butting heads. And I remember what she said, and I simply exhaled. And I said to her, I said, Mom, no matter what you do or say, I'll always love you. Mom broke down crying, said, I love you too. And they had the greatest relationship ever since. Now, the reason this is because both of them wanted to be loved unconditionally, but neither one of them was doing it first. And the thing is, we all want to be loved unconditionally. We all want to have the experience of being loved for just who we are. But you cannot have that experience without letting people know who you are. In their situation, the mother had the mask of being a parent to a child, and she was absolutely 100% trying to be a parent to a 45-year-old woman. And on her side, she was wearing the mask of being an angry child, being treated like she didn't have independence. And so they were both wearing these masks, but they weren't communicating their love for one another and their desire to just be free of the that mask that they're wearing. Communication is always going to be number one on this list. Number two is trust and jealousy. Now, trust and jealousy, people don't trust you or they're jealous of you because of the fear of not having their love. It's the fear of losing love. It's to get trusting and jealous, but it all stems from insecurity. It all stems from the insecurity of being hurt, being having love betrayed. That trust and that jealousy is about, I'm going to hold on to this one thing that I have that represents love to me. But love that is unconditional has no trust or jealousy because you just love them for who they are unconditionally. And you know that they are with you. And the interesting thing about this is the more you let go of those fears and anxieties of losing their love, the faster you have a most beautiful and trusting relationship because the people are comfortable being with you. And trust and jealousy only creates a division because people don't feel like they're trusted and they feel like that they are kind of trapped by that jealousy. And when you look at trust and jealousy from their perspective, it's just oppression. Trust and jealousy is just oppression. If you love someone, love them. If they go off and do something with somebody else, did it really stop you from loving? Not really. What it did was it betrayed your love. But the idea of this is if you're unconditional and they're unhappy, the unconditionally loving person would let them go, off and have their experience. The idea of trust and jealousy is not about the person you're jealous about. It's about you and about your own fears and anxieties. And each one of us must come to that place. If we are going to invite someone into our life to be a partner and be one with us in a relationship, then we have to understand that they're making that commitment too. And it's not about being afraid of losing them or jealous of that person who's trying to, have a relationship with them. It's not about that. If you really want to keep that relationship, keep that communication open, let them know how much you love them, and create a life where you're just enjoying being together and loving one another. Trust and jealousy doesn't create that at all. It actually creates that division, that anger, that separation, that hatred. It all comes out of that idea of trust and jealousy. The third thing on the list is expectations and priorities. In my relationships, that was the biggest struggle I had. Communication, of course, was number one and always will be, but different expectations and priorities. Interesting thing is, with all three of my wives, when we got together, we were having a great time. We were loving and being with each other. We were enjoying each other. But the second we got married, suddenly there was a whole new set of expectations, probably from both of us. My expectation was probably that because I'm a committer, when I get into a relationship, I'm committed, right? And my expectations, we got married, and I was like, okay, that's it, we're done. We're and I don't mean done like the relationship's over. I mean like I'm just going to go with my life, and that spark of excitement was kind of gone because I had that expectation and priority of this being an ongoing thing forever. Their expectations and priorities also shifted too. And it was very interesting because the word marriage, when they got married, they instantly had these expectations of father knows best. That I was going to give up all the crazy things of my youth and then suddenly go get the 9-to-5 job and do all the 30 years of career, which is not a non-reality in today's world. When you ask a person from 50 years ago about their career, they'll tell you they worked for this company for 30 years. When you ask someone of this generation what their career is, they say, I'm a graphic designer. I did it for this company, 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 this company. Their career is a graphic designer. The places they worked are simply places they worked. It's no longer if I'm with this company for 30 years kind of career thing. But all three of my wives expected me to give up acting and directing and doing artistic endeavors, which is the core of my being, and uh, become that model. And I did. All three of them. I suddenly gave up who I was to become something different for them. Now, the interesting part about this is they had expectations that were subconscious. They believed that's what they wanted. What they wanted was a relationship with someone unconditionally. Well, when I changed, I was no longer the person they fell in love with. So for me, sure, I mean, they had an expectation and priority that was different from what we had gone through with our relationship. But then I tried to meet that, and suddenly neither one of us was the person we fell in love with. The expectation and priorities are boundaried by your communication. If you suddenly are get married with somebody, ask them what that means. Ask them what marriage means to them. Find out what they're expecting and what their priorities will be at that time. When you find that out, tell them your priorities and expectations and see if they fit. Because if you go in and you change for their expectations, or they come in and they change for your expectations, or both, you're losing who you are. You're now living their life instead of your own. So be very clear in your communication about your expectations and your priorities, because that is where trust is developed, is understanding this is how it is. Number 4, of course, is financial stress. People get so worried about money. And why is that? Because they're afraid. Money elicits fear in a big way. And one person may spend a lot of money on this, and the other person may spend a lot of money on this, or one person may be terrified of not having X number of dollars in the bank and the retirement plan and all this stuff. And I'm not saying don't do those things, but I'm saying stop putting so much emphasis on the money instead of the relationship. Find the things that work for each other. The thing is, if the two people in that relationship were just loving each other and showing each other ways to laugh every day and enjoy each other every day and having that experience, and still had a expectation and a priority of being able to do this for as long as possible, they would create that financial stability anyway, because they're just making the money, they're coming together, and they're working as a team to bring that together as one. If one person is not doing that, it's because they're afraid. That fear is what you need to address, and communicating about that fear. And being a partner with someone is listening to their fears and helping them alleviate them. And so it comes back and forth about staying in the communication about what you're fearful of. And when money comes into play, understand it's the love of money that is the root of many evils, not money itself. You can create an amazing life living it beautifully into the world, and not have a stress about money, but also not be a multimillionaire. The idea of needing a number as opposed to needing simply the freedom to do what you want to do. And that's really what the idea of money really is the freedom to do what you want to do.
And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Coffee Time with John. This channel runs off coffee, so get your coffee and tea at johnsjoe.com.
Number 5 is intimacy and sexual connection. That expression of your full self is always hindered by one thing: fear. Fear is always the paralyzer. People get into intimacy and sexual connection, they're judging themselves about how they're performing. They're judging others about what they think about how they're performing. They're looking at this situation as a stressful situation, as opposed to an expression of love. Oftentimes people feel like they're not a good lover. And what happens is they become not a good lover because they believe they're not a good lover. And then the other person's not satisfied because they're not in the moment and just loving. The idea of a sexual connection is not about lust. It's about bringing that expression of love out. But if you're fearful of jealousy or financial or all the things we've talked about already, if those things are rising up within you, it's hard to have a direct connection because you've got this fear-based barrier between the two of you at the moment of intimacy. And you've got to release those ideas of those things to have a free flowing sexual encounter with someone you love. And the more you let fear interrupt the bedroom, the faster that relationship will fall down, because that expression of love in the bedroom is not just an expression of love in the bedroom. It's a release of tension. It's a knowing that they're safe, and they're having that explosion of passion that allows them to release their fears and anxieties. It's a pressure release valve. And when you look at it from that perspective, you start to realize that when I bring fear in the bedroom, fear stays in the bedroom, and then nobody wants to go to the bedroom. And so it's the idea of releasing your fears and anxieties and having that connection and that love and that communication. And if you're having a struggle with this, communicate openly with your partner. Let them know what's going on. Let them help you overcome your fear in that process. Number 6 is conflict with family and friends. As I said in the very first thing about communication, you have to foster the friendship first. And my one wife absolutely treated her friends better than me. My first wife, from the day her father met me, he never liked me. He could not stand me. Called me terrible names. And in those days, I had long Fabio hair, and I was working wearing tights, living in the woods, doing a sword fighting show. And her father was an absolute elder gentleman who had the older ideas of 30-year career at one business and all that stuff. And I was a quote unquote bum in his mind. And the interesting thing is that in that relationship, as soon as we were married, my wife was like, we have to, help my father. And within a month, I had my hair cut off and I had a 9-to-5 job. I did all those things that made him accept me. And he did. He accepted me. He was fine. But it came down to this idea that the conflict with the family and friends changed me. Right? I became somebody I wasn't, and somebody unhappy in my life. Right? And and that change within me came from the conflict with the father. The change within me with my other wife was the conflict with her friends. Right? And that conflict, it definitely became a fear that came into our relationship, and it absolutely came into our bedroom. That fear, that anxiety, the stresses of all that, me suddenly not being my authentic self and putting myself into a place of not being me fully. They couldn't love me anymore because I was no longer me. I became the expectations of either them or their family or friends, and that chameleon-like quality of the highly empathic person puts themselves in a situation where they try to live up to the expectations of others and forget to serve themselves. And the reality of it is that self that you're serving is the self that others were in love with. And it's a matter of holding on to that integrity of who you are. Integrity is a very key thing. Your integrity is you staying with your authentic self, no matter what goes on. That morphing of myself outside of my own authentic self led to number 7, which is the lack of quality time. I was trying to live up to expectations, so I was working hours upon hours upon hours upon hours, and I was doing all my best to do all the things they wanted, and we no longer had quality time. Now, what is quality time? It's the place where you get to be completely relaxed. It's the place where you get to have fun and enjoy each other. It's the place where you get to Look at that person, let them know that you love them for exactly who they are, and be the person that they love exactly as you are. Quality time is not about working and making more money for retirement so you can do this, this, that. Quality time is about the moments of laughter and joy and just, hugging one another and, coming together and just nestling against each other as you watch your favorite movies. And all those moments of quality time are the moment where your unconditional self is expressed, where their unconditional self is expressed. And quality time is only spent in your authentic self because it's the time where you allow yourself to. The rest of the time, there's all the stresses and anxieties and fears of everything else. But the more quality time you have with one another, you're spending time with the people that you fell in love with. And that feeling of quality time, it's called quality time because there's a quality to it. And that quality that is there is love. It's the unconditional love. The rest of it's just fear and anxiety. And if you don't allow yourself to find that quality time, one of my favorite things, I'd come out in the morning and my wife would be doing something in the kitchen, and I would just walk up behind her and I'd grab her and I would just kiss her on the neck and I would just hug her and she would just grab me. We'd nestle in together. That one moment was a moment of quality time because there was no expectation there. There was no anything else. It was just a loving moment. And that's quality time. And if you don't give yourself that quality time in relationships, then you're not going to have quality time in your relationships. The quality of your relationships will falter if you don't give it quality time. Oftentimes, quality time is hard to come by if you're carrying a lot of unresolved baggage. If you have been a victim in life to past relationships and you're bringing that into the new relationship, then you're absolutely hindering your process or your possibility of having an unconditionally loving relationship with this person because you're bringing baggage in from the past. You're bringing in trust issues from the past. You're bringing in communication issues from the past. You're bringing in financial issues from the past. You're bringing in friends and family issues from the past. If you're bringing things into the new relationship from their past, that's just unfair because this new person in front of you is not your past. It's your present. And when you look at this relationship, the most successful relationships are always built in the present because the past is just a collection of present moment memories. And so it's a matter of being with this one person fully present so that you can create the moments that become your past and create that new experience. Unconditionally loving people love each other as they are. That's what unconditional means. And having the unresolved baggage is conflict with the past. It's not the person in front of you. And so you've got to release the past to be unconditional in the present. You have to realize that this person is not that person. This person is not that person who cheated on you and left. This person is not the person who treated their friends and family better than you. This is not the person in front of you. This is a new situation. If you want an unconditional relationship, you have to be unconditional. If you're in a relationship with somebody who can't be unconditional, you have to decide whether your love is unconditional in this situation or whether their conditions are becoming a condition. Their conditions are their past baggage. Put the baggage down and move forward with a clean slate, looking at this relationship as a chance to be unconditional. And you can do this in relationships you've been in for years. You can both choose to put your baggage down and start with a clean slate. Both of you can say, that was yesterday. Today we're starting new. Today we're starting with a fresh, clean slate. What would you love to do today? And then go do something you love to do. What would you like to try that you think might be fun? Go do that. Do you know who you are and what your aspirations are? And they say, no. Well, let's find them. What do you love to do? Well, in my youth, I used to paint. Well, then let's take a painting class together. Or let's start doing things that foster each other's interests. And that's how you create new baggage, right? You create a new flying carpet instead of a bag, right? Bags are things that are heavy and you carry. Flying carpet is something you ride on the wind and experience, right? So create a new flying carpet rather than a bag. Number 9, different conflict styles. And what this is I had one wife who, when we would argue, in the middle of the argument, she would just walk away. And I am someone who wants to resolve the situation in the present moment. Right. But I had to respect her need to walk away because it was her need to walk away. The problem that I found in this our conflict styles was she would walk away and bottle it. She would never come back to it or discuss it openly and communicate wise. She was just a a person filled with all this stuff that she shoved down in, and she never let it out. And it was to me, I was like, we're having a situation. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. And let's figure out how I can help you, and you can, maybe you can help me, and we can come together in a consensus on how to move forward. Those conflict styles created a huge problem because I was like, let's do it now. Let's do it now. And she would walk away. That conflict style to me was a huge hindrance to our marriage because I never felt like anything was getting resolved. And she felt like it was resolved because she was bottling it down. She just went away. And so we never were able to come to an equilibrium or calm seas on our ocean of life because that calm seas comes with being able to communicate and having that style. But the different conflict styles led to us not having calm seas. There was always an undercurrent trying to pull us down because we were not resolving anything in a way that is clean and clear and communicated fully. So the conflict styles are definitely a problem within relationships. The way you resolve this is open communication. Talk about your conflict styles. Say, well, I want to bottle up, and say, well, I need to do this. And then you say, well, let's find a way that we can give each other the space, but yet still come back and have a conversation and talk through it without the emotional fear. And when we do that, then you can create an equilibrium. You can create the calm seas. But until you figure out a way to communicate how to have conflict, you'll never will, and those seas will always have that undercurrent that is detrimental to you getting where you want to go. The last one on the list of the 10 is complacency and boredom. Oftentimes we get into patterns. I get up in the morning, I have my coffee, I read my paper, I go to the job, I do my work all day. I come home, I say, "Hi, honey, how are you?" I sit down, have dinner, and then we go through the evening, and I'm doing this, and they're doing that. I'm interested in this, they're interested in that, and everything gets complacent, and everything gets boring. Giving yourself new experiences and new challenges and things that you can work together to say, I want to do this, I want to do this. What would you be interested in doing? Well, I love traveling. Then let's make sure we're traveling and seeing things. I love watching old movies and critiquing old movies. So let's start, set up a movie night and start creating conversation about movies. I like art. I like theater. All right, so then let's get us out and do some theater and let's make our life vibrant. Always look for something new and something exciting to do. And that complacency, that boredom, people want to have new experiences. Life is about experience. And if you're finding new experiences and they're finding new experiences and you're bringing your experiences together, then you have the ability to never get bored, never get complacent. Something new, something exciting, something that is different. You have a love of wine, then take trips to various wine vineyards all over the world and do that. You like the idea of just experiencing nature, go out and join a hiking and biking club and go see different places all over the world. You like skiing, go skiing. There's so many things that you can be constantly changing up. What's nice about something like skiing is it's a winter activity. So winter comes and you go do that. And the interesting thing is the more you put yourself into those experiences, the healthier you'll be. Because you'll be doing things, you'll be vibrant. Your blood oxygen will be high because you're out and you're active and you're doing stuff. Keep yourself into a new direction. Find new things, And if you're feeling bored, open up the internet. What's something I can do this weekend? And go do it. Get out of the house. Try something new. the more you can come to that place of understanding that complacency and boredom is a choice. It's the choice of not looking for something interesting to do. And the more you can start creating the interesting things to do and find things that are interesting not only for you, but find things that are interesting for your partner and suggest them. Hey, I know that you love this art show thing, so there's an art show this weekend, let's go. Right? This art show might not be your thing, but the loving thing to do is understand that this partner in my life loves this, and as a unconditionally loving partner, I'm not going to say I hate art shows. I'm not going to ever go to one. No, relationships are about helping each other have unconditional experiences. And people often get into relationships and they very quickly become codependent. But relationships are not about serving one another. It's about walking side by side through life, enhancing each other's life as you go. But each part of that has to choose to walk side by side and enhance the other's life. That's what an unconditionally loving relationship is. It's not about losing yourself in servitude. It's about gaining a partner that will enrich your life. And so you have to do your part of that. You have to be the partner that enriches their life as well. And that's the way successful relationships are created. So in the end, we've talked about communication, we've talked about trust and jealousy, we've talked about different expectations and priorities, we've talked about financial stresses, we've talked about intimacy and sexual connection, conflicts with family and friends, we've talked about the lack of quality time, the unresolved baggage, the different conflict styles, the complacency and the boredom. Right? And each one of them only suffers when fear is allowed to be in the relationship. Love unconditionally. God is love. There's no fear in perfect love. So be fearless in your relationships. Let them know who you are, because quite honestly, that's who they fell in love with. You, not your mask of fear, of expectations of theirs. They fell in love with you. And if you want to stay in a relationship for a long time, never lose you. Always be you 100%. And do these things of finding the new ways of overcoming things. And remember, it all comes down, all of them, all 10 of them come down to communication. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day. And I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.